Hey guys, JK here with another Fate Grand Order video. This time I'll be talking about the upcoming Okeanos characters. The banner is pretty exciting, not necessarily because there's anything super OP or anything like that, but usually when we get a new banner, there's like one new feature character, two new feature characters, but there's actually going to be 5 new characters that we can potentially pull. So I wanted to talk about that today, so let's get right to it. First of all, I don't know if people are that interested in this, but this is the tier list that's current for Japan. It's not 100% accurate, but it is kind of like the best thing that I can find anywhere. So keep in mind this is like 2 years in the future. Best servant is Merlin. Waver is right up there too. But I just wanted to show you guys kind of a rough breakdown of where these new characters are going to land. Again, take this with a big grain of salt because at our current state of the game right now, these characters are a lot better than they will be in the future because obviously there's power creep. But I just thought it'd be interesting to share that with you guys. So the first character that we'll focus on is going to be the this character right here. This is Francis Drake, the new 5-star rider. It's actually going to be our first 5-star rider in the game. So that, and for other reasons, she's going to be the best rider that we have, but as you can see here, she's not like super good in Japan currently in the meta. Altera's right next to her too, and Altera I would say is the best saber that we have right now in global. So you can see that power creep obviously is a real thing, except for lucky people like Waver, Gilgamesh, so forth. But so Francis is here, middle of the pack pretty much for 5 stars. The next character is going to be right here. And Bonny and Mary Reed, 8.5 rating is very solid. It's right next to Emiya actually, and yeah, that's very viable even in the future. But of course, an 8.5 is not the same thing as an 8.5 for a 5-star. So this would be average or whatever for a 5-star, below average possibly. But for a 4-star rider, this is going to be a very good pull. And then we have a bunch of 3-stars, and a lot of them are actually really good. We have Yoyo, I don't know how to pronounce that, an archer here, considered EX rank, which makes him very viable even as 3 stars. And then we have David. And then the next one is going to be this lancer right here, Hector, who's a B rating. So not that great, but there's definitely some good stuff on this banner. I would say 4 out of the 5 in the current meta are going to be really good to pull, but Hector is just kind of like whatever. If you are desperately in need of a lancer, you might want him, but at this point, everyone, or mostly everyone, should have like a coup or something like that, so I don't know why anyone would really want Hector, unless it's for like personal preference reasons. But anyway, let's go into a little bit more detail. So the first character we'll talk about, of course, is Hector. I like going bottom up. So he's a Lancer. At level 70, which is kind of like realistically what you'll probably level him up to, his attack stats are okay, but kind of low actually. 6,928. HP is okay, 10,200. It tends to be that if one is low, the other is high, but I would argue that attack is definitely more important, unless you're talking about like a support role. So his servant skills, Tactics C, increase NP strength for all allies, so that's not bad. If you throw this on for 1 turn right before you use a noble phantasm, or maybe even a couple of them, do some extra damage, that's pretty good. It is 1 turn and it's AoE, so that's why the percentages are a little bit lower than maybe like a single target thing. Proof of Friendship C, medium chance to inflict stun, medium chance to decrease charge by 1, and this is to 1 enemy. So this is not too bad either, kind of like what Camilla has. The stun and the decreased charge is pretty nice, and the chances are not that bad. Starts off at 60, if you level it up all the way, it can go to 80. You can generally tell also, by the way, the strength of the skills relative to other characters by the letter grade they assign. So C plus is like, I would say slightly above average, C is average. Disengage B here, slightly above average. So Disengage is his 3rd skill. Removes debuffs and restores HP to himself. 800 at level 1, it's not that great. Goes up to 2000, but basically he doesn't really do anything a whole lot by himself. I mean, he can kind of help keep himself alive for a little bit. There's some situational use for this. He can help his team, but he can't really do a whole lot on his own. His class skills increase debuff resistance by 17.5, not too bad. Increase quick card effectiveness by 8%, which is also not too bad. And his Noble Phantasm is heavy damage to all enemies that ignores defense, so that's not too bad either. If you want just kind of like a wave clearer and you don't have any of the 4-star better options, then maybe this guy can have some use for you. And it also has an interlude power-up, quest power-up. So it basically goes from like 300% at level 1 to 400%, 500% at level 5 to 600%, so not a huge bump, but it's free, so why not? And the defense decrease doesn't really increase from the interlude, just goes from 20 to 40 just as usual. And his cards are 2 quicks, 1 arts, and 2 busters, so yeah, pretty standard Lancer. Nothing really special about him, but if you're desperate for one or you like his art or something, then go for it. The next character is Yoyo. And as we saw before, she's considered an EX 3-star servant, so has a lot of potential. Stats are pretty okay, I guess. 7,000 attack here, 9,500 HP. Okay, so her skills, Vampirism C, it has a low chance to decrease charge by 1, which is not that great. But the low chance here is it's kind of funny because they say low chance here and it's 60%, but then for Hector, they say medium chance to decrease charge, and it says 60% here, so they really need to get their wording straight. But anyway, the best part about this probably, the decreasing charge is pretty situational, but the increasing her own NP gauge is always going to be useful. So it starts out at 18%, goes up to 27%. In all likelihood, if you're using these characters, or at least for the foreseeable future, you're not going to be leveling up to 10 right away. So you're going to be kind of hovering around this 20% range, but not too bad overall. Siren Song A, high chance to inflict charm on the opposite gender. This could be situationally useful as well, and it's a pretty good chance. And there's a lot of male enemies in the game, obviously, so because you're fighting other servants often, so this can be pretty useful. Whim of the Goddess A, unfortunately we do not get this skill when we first get this character, because we need to wait for the strengthening quest and we don't have these yet. But once we do get this, it's going to increase Arts card's effectiveness for 3 turns to herself. So pretty nice buff there. 20% is definitely pretty decent. It is single target, but that's why it's 20%, not like 8%, 10%. But we don't have this yet. So far she's okay but not great, but I think the best part about her is her Noble Phantasm, and what it does is does significant damage to a single enemy, which is actually really useful for the toughest fights, because when you have AoE, the damage is usually reduced, obviously, to compensate for that. So single target Noble Phantasms are good for the tough content. The significant damage, which is 900%, goes up to, actually it doesn't go up at all. That's interesting. So it's 900%, but then after an interlude quest power up, it does go up to 1200%, which is nice. But it also does bonus damage against males, so this does go up a little bit. It does bonus damage of 130% to 150. It also has a chance to charm the male, which is basically guaranteed if they're susceptible to it, and it decreases attack of the enemy. So this is really a lot of good stuff all in one. Against like one male enemy, you could really do a lot of stuff to the boss, so this is very useful. So this, in my opinion, is what makes her really effective and good. And of course all that stuff just gets a little bit stronger with the interlude quest power-up. And her class skills, which is, for me, the least important, least interesting thing, but I have to cover it. Increases her critical strength by 11%, increases damage by 300, which is a flat amount, debuff resist by 30%. This is actually really high. This is EX level, so that means it's really good. A+ here. And magic resistance A, debuff resist by 20%. So she's actually going to be really resistant to debuffs, so maybe that's another reason why she's a nice stable character. But yeah, against single male bosses, very good, very effective, especially if it's going to be a saber class. And so the next servant's gonna be our last 3-star today. This one's the one that I'm most excited about, even though he's not at his full potential yet. And this one is David. This is actually King David from the Bible, for those of you who are familiar. The attack stats are pretty good. This is actually pretty good for a 3-star character. So 7700, lower HP, but again, I would take the extra attack any day for, you know, a lot of classes. The servant skills, we get initially Divine Protection A, which increases his own defense by 50%. That actually is a lot of defense. Yeah, so that's going to make him harder to kill, and it restores HP, so he's pretty tanky right off the bat, so his low HP is not going to be a problem. Harp of Healing B removes mental debuffs for all allies, and it applies Evade 1 time for all allies, and restores HP. This is awesome. Like, basically, evasion is one of the most broken skills in the whole game anyway. If an enemy has his Noble Phantasm charged up and then he does it and you have evade on, it literally will do 0 damage unless it has some kind of like mechanic that goes past the evade, but most of them don't. So to be able to apply this to all your allies all at once and give them a little bit of healing and stuff is crazy. So this is my favorite skill. Really, really awesome. AoE evade. I'm really excited to get this character. And you get this character actually for free, just for clearing Okeanos. And then, oh, okay, never mind. He does get all his skills right off the bat. My mistake. I was thinking of Yoyo, I guess. But yeah, he gets Charisma B, which increases attack of all allies. So this is obviously always useful. So he has this awesome evasion skill, awesome attack debuff. This is better than, like, you know, a lot of other characters that we have right now. B is a, you know, decent buff there. So tankiness, survivability, we have more survivability for the party and a nice little buff here. Very good character. I look forward to getting him. And then his class skills, nothing really special here. And then his Noble Phantasm, it kind of goes with the whole evade thing, I guess, but this actually cannot be evaded by the enemy. So if you run up against a boss who has evasion, let's say like you're up against a coup or something, this is unaffected by that. So yeah, really cool stuff. Significant damage to a single enemy, so it's 600 to 1000%, and because he's a 3-star, it's actually very possible to level him up, and even at level 2, level 3, it goes up significantly. Good damage here. And then a high chance to inflict skill seal, so that would, you know, prevent the enemy from doing a whole bunch of skills. Like there was a Nero Fest somewhat recently, I guess, where, you know, she just constantly buff herself, make herself pretty invincible. This could stop stuff like that. So very useful Noble Phantasm. Awesome character overall. Don't like the art, but everything else about him is really great. So look forward to getting him for sure. This is why a lot of people also are saving up a lot of friends points to be able to get him, and to get multiple like NP level ups. Okay, now we have Bonny and Mary Reed, which is a rider class. There's not too many good riders in the game right now. A lot of people are rolling with a 3-star Ushi Wakamaru, and Saint Martha is more like a support, so it's nice that we're getting more of these offensive riders. If I were to pull on this banner, which I might, I would really hope to get her at least. So Bonny and Mary Reed basically is an offensive rider for once, 9,000 attack, 11,000 HP, which is okay. The servant skills, they synergize pretty well together. So Voyage A increases critical star drop rate, which is always good for a rider who has quick cards. Increases critical star drop rate, increases critical strength, and this last skill increases attack and increases critical star gather rate to herself. So basically, the way you'd want to use her, let's say you have some quick stars lined up, or you have, quick cards lined up, or you have her Noble Phantasm about to, you know, be ready. Then what you would do is pop Voyage A, so that when you use those quick cards, use the Noble Phantasm, it'll drop a lot of stars. And then the next turn, what you would do is when you have a bunch of those stars, you do combination C, which boosts her attack and increases her gather rate. And riders already have a pretty good gather rate, so what it'll do is almost guarantee that most of those stars that you gather will go to her, so that she'll have high critical, strike rate and the increased attack, and then you further increase her critical strength with this marksmanship B skill, so she'll just be able to dish out a lot of critical damage in those 2 turns. So as you can see, it synergizes really well. It's a nice cohesive skill set, which is actually kind of rare in this game. Class skills, not much, just magic resistance D. And then Noble Phantasm. As I mentioned before, it is a quick card, Noble Phantasm. And it does single target damage, which is always good, as I mentioned before. Well, not for farming, but it's good for tough content and good for bosses. 1200% all the way up to 2000%. Even getting an NP2 would be really nice, because 1200 to 1600 would be a nice boost. And it also does bonus damage when her HP is low. So here's like the calculation for that, but yeah, it has a potential to do a ton of extra damage here. And then with the Interlude quest power up, it just bumps up the default from 1200 to 1600. Really nice Noble Phantasm. 2 quick cards here, 2 arts and 1 buster. So yeah, she has the potential to generate a lot of stars, and then she also has the potential to use those stars to dish out a lot of critical damage. So I would really hope to get her if I pull on this banner, and yeah, she would be a really good rider to add to my collection, because the riders so far in the game have been somewhat overwhelming. So yeah, really hope to get her. And then last but not least, of course, is our first 5-star rider in the game, Francis Drake. So good stats because she's a 5-star, 11,000, 12,830 for her HP at level 90. She has a really good star generation rate, but she also has really nice AoE, which we'll get to. I should have mentioned this in the other ones too, but her quick card hits 6 times. And the reason why that is important is because the more times that a quick card hits, the more stars it's generating per hit. Hers only does 2, but she has other skills to kind of bolster that. His does 2, Yoyo's does 3, and Hector's does 2. So 2 is kind of the standard. So as you can see, 6 hits per quick card is a lot. She's going to be generating a lot of stars. Her skills increase her MP strength and attack for 1 turn. Voyager of the Storm, A+. Actually, this is AoE, so this is really nice. If you were kind of just farming, trying to get through it really quickly, you could just pop this just for the attack increase. But if you had MPs up, Noble Phantasm's ready to go, then you're boosting the MP strength, but you're also adding attack onto that, so it's like a double bonus for all your allies. Really nice skill, and you start off with this one. Golden Rule B, increase MP gain. It is nice that it's 3 turns and it's to herself, but I'm not a huge fan of these, maybe because I don't know the math well enough. I'd rather just get like a set NP amount straight up. But this increases her MP gain, so obviously don't use this if you're not about to use some arts cards or something like that. And then her last skill, Pioneer of the Stars EX. This is where she actually does get a flat amount of MP gauge. It starts off at 30, goes all the way up to 50%. So this is really nice. Apply Invincible Pierce. So if the enemy that you're facing is invincible, let's say like from a buff like what Mashu has, then you can go right through that, and you gain critical stars. So this is a really nice skill. It allows her to spam her Noble Phantasm a lot easier, and she gets critical stars as well. So she's generating a lot of good stars, and she's a rider, so she'll be able to make use of them. Her class skills are Magic Resistance D, 12.5%. This is standard stuff, kind of low actually. And then Riding B, quick card effectiveness increases by 8%, which is kind of weird because she only has 1 quick card. Which I guess this is why, I guess this kind of balances out with the whole 6 hits thing, because she only has 1 of these, which is unusual for a rider. Normally they would have 2, and maybe even a quick card Noble Phantasm. but because she only has 1, that's why she does 6 hits. So I can kind of see why now. They're trying to compensate for that. But even with only just 1 quick card, she is able to get a lot of critical stars, both from her skill here, Pioneer of the Stars, which she gets 10 at level 1, or actually just 10 all the way across the board. So that's a nice flat amount. But then her Buster Noble Phantasm also gains crit stars, which is nice because Busters usually don't give you crit stars. So she does heavy damage to all enemies and 300, 400% after the interlude quest power up. This is pretty standard stuff for AoEs, I guess. Goes up to 500% or 600% here. But yeah, on top of that damage, the pretty standard damage, she gets those critical stars, which is nice, 20 all the way up to 40, which is crazy. And the fact that she's able to charge it up so easily with this increased MP gain and increased MP gauge here, she's able to spam that, and she's going to make a really, really good farmer, especially up against casters. So really cool character. I can see why she's not going to be like super viable in the end game and tough content. I mean, her Noble Phantasm is more of a farming tool more than anything else, but for now, she's definitely the best rider that we have, and she's going to be really fun to use. So if I got her, I'd be really happy too. And I really want Anne, Bonny, and Mary Reed. And we're all going to get David anyhow from completing Okeanos, but I wouldn't mind getting multiple copies of him so I can increase that MP level. So those are the 3 that I'm most excited about. Yoyo is pretty good, a little bit more situational, and once she gets her strengthening quest, she'll be a little bit better. And Hector, I'm just not really going to touch him. So that's my character reviews. This is my first time doing this for this particular game, so I apologize if it feels a little bit rough, but I'll get the hang of it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you're planning on pulling on this banner or if I'm missing something. I'm looking forward to the new riders, and I'm looking forward to David, obviously, so I'm probably going to pull at least once or twice, but yeah, let me know if you are as well, and I'll see you guys next time.